Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to talk about something deeply meaningful: self-acceptance, emptiness, and life as a freestyle dance. We will talk about how self-awareness is not an abstract philosophy, but a direct experience that we can live here and now.
Life, the awareness of our consciousness, that is, being and knowing that you exist, is not something we can intellectually understand. It is experience. It is a dance, like a freestyle dance. It has no instruction manual, no choreography. You dance with the steps you feel at the moment. And life, like freestyle dance, needs no explanation. It is this movement, this presence that is happening now. Just as a freestyle dance dancer does not think, now I will take 2 steps to the right, life is not something we can completely plan. Life is a flow, a dance. It is like the river that flows from the mountain down. It has no plan. Whatever obstacle the river finds, he turns to avoid it. But there is something that often distracts us from this immediate experience of life and keeps us trapped in patterns of thought and feeling. It's the ego. The ego, the self we think we are in our mind, is a narrative of this type of history and a bunch of thought patterns, beliefs, and feelings created by outside influences. These thoughts took form and set the ego character to charge these thoughts as his thoughts and become their manager. So our consciousness has become entangled with the character in our minds that claims thoughts arising in our consciousness as his thoughts, and our consciousness identifies with the character as our real self. So this guy, the ego, lives on the illusion that something is missing. This is the reason why the ego cannot be quiet. The silence, the emptiness, the stillness scares it because the ego, these thoughts and the story of the ego that is constantly being recycled in our mind, if we become quiet, if we sit down to meditate, it will disappear in the light of our awareness. Because the ego does not exist as a separate entity, except as thoughts in our minds. It seeks fulfillment in external things, places, and people to feel that it exists. That is why the ego suffers. It suffers because the ego cannot find a stable existence. It's just a flow of thoughts. The ego is thoughts that arise in our consciousness and tell us, you are not enough. You have to be someone to be accepted. You need a goal, a purpose, to be worthy. The ego is constantly trying to become something in life. The ego cannot rest and enjoy a moment of joy or peace because it always lacks something, desires something, and is always afraid that it will not succeed, or if it succeeds, it is afraid that it will lose what it has acquired. This keeps us trapped in seeking external validation from our parents, our friends, society. The ego is always looking to fill the void. But the emptiness of the ego, what it lacks, is not and can never be filled by external things.
Let's take it a little deeper. So what is this void? Why are we afraid of the void? And what happens when we accept it?
Emptiness, the void, is what we are, the awareness of our consciousness. But for the ego, that seems terrifying, because the ego perceives it as lack. It's as if life, the void, were saying to the ego, you are nothing. The ego fears silence because there with our awareness we discover that we don't need it as much as it thinks. In silence, in stillness, in emptiness, there is a fullness that the ego cannot comprehend. But when you look closely, emptiness is not lack. It is pure presence. It is the sense of I am that is complete without needing anything. The ego is like an overactive child who is afraid to sleep. Why? Is he missing something? Yes, it always feels lack and constantly checks his cell phone, turns on the TV as soon as he gets home, fills every moment of silence with noise. That is why the ego plans everything in life. I looked at my calendar, says Maria, 35, and realized I had planned every minute for the next 3 months, even my free time. Here are the 3 fears of the ego. First, the fear of non-existence. When I stop the activity, who will I be, thinks the ego. The ego identifies with action because it fears that without action, it ceases to exist. The ego's fear of truth. In the silence of truth, the ego hears what it avoids hearing by keeping itself in activity. Insecurities surface, and hard truths become visible. The truth about the ego is like turning on the light in a dark room. That is why the ego is afraid to meditate. It will melt in the light of our consciousness. The ego fears simplicity. If life is too simple, it wants to make it complicated. The ego wants to make everything complicated because it fears that simplicity makes it redundant. The ego may want to explain to someone something as simple as how to breathe. The ego fears peace and simplicity because it cannot buy it, conquer it, or control it. But when we accept that emptiness, peace, and simplicity, then we stop looking to fill it with external validation. We find freedom that does not depend on whether we are loved, understood, or accepted.
But the conversation takes a beautiful turn here. Because some will ask, if I am satisfied with the simple awareness of my consciousness, does it mean that I do not need to ask for anything from life? If all that is needed is to be aware of is just our consciousness, then what about romance, love, companionship, and dancing? Am I to renounce everything in life? Can you live passionately and simultaneously without attachment in awareness of consciousness?
That's the big secret. When you live from the fullness of your presence, then you enjoy all of these, the love, the companionship, the dance, without depending on them. Love is not about completing you. You are already complete. Love becomes a celebration. The company is not about feeling like you belong. You belong everywhere and nowhere. You just enjoy the moment with others. It's like a dance, a freestyle dance. It doesn't need spectators. It is the way you express your freedom. Imagine you are in a nightclub. The music is played and someone gets up to free dance. What do you notice? He doesn't count steps. He doesn't worry if people look at him. He just lets himself move with the music.
Nice, but how do we live this out in practice? How can we accept ourselves?
Self-acceptance begins with simple observation. Stand in silence and ask, what am I missing now? If you look deeply, you will see that nothing is missing. See your thoughts that say, I must become somebody. Observe them like clouds that come and go. And above all, embrace the emptiness. Don't be afraid of silence. That's where your true power lies. Of course, you have to get used to the silence. It might take a while.
But what about the darkest moments? When we lose someone we love? When a breakup leaves us half?
There is a free dance called the free dance of pain. It's what people dance to when the heart aches so much that words are not enough. And you know something? Pain is also part of life.
When we lose someone, says Maria, a psychologist and our regular listener, it's like suddenly dancing alone, the same as the way that we always danced with the one we lost. The steps are the same, but everything has changed.
We don't need to get over it quickly. Grief has its rhythm. Every memory is a step of the dance. Breaking up is like suddenly changing the music. We thought we were dancing the waltz, and suddenly we have to learn to dance the free dance ourselves, alone. After the breakup, shares Giannis, I felt like I lost my rhythm. But slowly I realized that it wasn't mine and that I had to find my own rhythm. Don't push yourself to be good. Not everything can go well in life. A lot will happen. Every day has its own rhythm. Memories are like old photos in an album. We don't throw them away. We treasure them, but we keep on living. Pain is the imprint of love. Each tear is a note in the melody of our life. Little by little, pain becomes wisdom. As in freestyle dancing, there are no wrong steps in mourning. There is only your own dance, your own path. And at some point, not tomorrow, maybe not even in a month, but at some point, you will find that you can dance again. A different dance, but you will dance.
In closing, if life is a freestyle dance, what is the message for our listeners?
The message is this. Life is a freestyle dance, but it's not like trying to dance freestyle while constantly looking at yourself in the mirror. It's not possible. The emptiness we feel is not a lack. It is like the empty space in a room. Thanks to it, we can move. Dance your life without asking for anything. Imagine two people dancing freestyle. The former dances to impress, the latter dances because he feels it. Who really enjoys dancing? Accept yourself as you are. Live from the fullness of now. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You are already enough and complete. And when you live like this, then every moment becomes a celebration, a short freestyle dance, not for others, but for you. That's just how life is. It's not a problem to be solved, it's an experience to be lived. The empty glass is the most useful. You can fill it with whatever you want.
Thanks for being with us today. Stay tuned for more. Life is presence itself. Don't lose it by chasing happiness in external things, places and people. Created by Elias Stassinos. Please share the video, like, comment and subscribe.